Man City have lost 5 games in a row after being thrashed 4-0 by Spurs at the Etihad. Hello and welcome back to INMR, where in today's podcast I'm going to be breaking down what went wrong for Pep Guardiola's side on Saturday. The news of Pep's new 2-year contract extension was expected to lift spirits, but by full time Spurs have become just the latest team to show Man City have taken a step backwards in Rodri's absence. It was in centre midfield again that City fell short. James Maddison ran the show, and although Erling Haaland had enough chances to change the narrative, the visitors thoroughly deserved their win. Spurs were brave and aggressive in their attempts to pierce through midfield, while Man City were passive in typical Rodri-less fashion. That is the broad overview of how and why Spurs dominated this game. Nobody highlighted the difference between the two sides more than James Maddison, who was fantastic on his return to first team action in 2 different phases of play. First, his runs from deep challenged the City defence and led to the opening goal, a superb cross from Dejan Kulusevski that rewarded Ange Postecoglou's decision to move the Swede back out to the right and accommodate Maddison centrally. Maddison revealed to Sky Sports after the game that he told Kulusevski to look for him in those moments, knowing that the City midfielders wouldn't know whether to track his left half-space runs. From City's perspective, it's hard to imagine Rodri letting Maddison go as Ilkay Gundogan did. Picking Maddison, a player who was always likely to make them runs, was an attacking risk from Postecoglou that quickly and persistently paid off. After the opener, before which City had raced out the blocks and put Spurs under pressure, City began to wane in energy and dropped a little deeper. This is when Maddison took charge in a second way, coming short to dictate the tempo brilliantly. It was his crisp passing through the lines that pinned City that caused the hesitation that led to City giving the ball away in their own third, and Maddison again running from deep, scoring the second. Maddison had 64 touches of the ball and made 45 passes, dictating the tempo centrally and in the final third until City were chasing shadows. The main reason Spurs overwhelmed City for the first hour and stormed into a 3-0 lead was a numerical advantage in the middle of the park. The sharp interplay between Yves Bissouma, Pape Sarr, Maddison and a drop in Dominic Solanke was just too much for Gundogan and Bernardo Silva, 2 midfielders who lack the defensive clout of a Rodri. But the difference was also the result of Guardiola's unusual starting formation. Rico Lewis began on the right wing in front of Kyle Walker, and these 2 players couldn't handle Heung-min Son and Destiny Udogie, with Lewis in particular caught between his right wing responsibilities and the expectation he would slip into central midfield. Meanwhile, Silva and Gundogan pressed sporadically in the middle, and half relying on Lewis seemed a little unsure of how to play. But the biggest issue was fielding Phil Foden and Savinho as inside forwards behind Haaland, crowding the middle and leaving Walker and Gvardiol to hold all of the width. In the first half, Walker had 38 touches and Gvardiol had 39, which was the 4th and 3rd most touches of any player on the pitch, and these touches were frequently in the final third, unmarked and harmless. Guardiola had created a system that meant only the players with space to create were 2 fullbacks. Worse still, it was this narrow attacking system that led to Spurs' first goal, when Kulusevski had room to cross because the inverting winger Savinho couldn't get back in time. Noticing those issues, Guardiola made big changes at the break. Lewis was moved into central midfield to help shore up holes that had been appearing and create a more normal midfield box, while Savinho was moved into a wide right position to do more with the space that Walker had been finding. Unfortunately for City, Spurs broke to score a 3rd goal, and within 7 minutes of the second half, the new plan fell apart. The 3rd goal was the signal for Spurs' change of approach, which meant Guardiola's tactical switches were counteracting a state of play that no longer existed. In other words, he reacted too late. Following the 3rd goal, Spurs held 30% possession and had 4 shots to Man City's 13. They sat deep, blocked the middle, dug in brilliantly in a compressed 4-5-1 formation, and even countered to add the 4th goal. For that, Postecoglou deserves huge credit. His team have been criticised in the past for failing to shut games down and for playing emotionally when calm heads are needed. That is not what happened here, and again, Maddison led by example. He made 2 tackles and 2 blocks in the second half, working tirelessly to help his side keep an unlikely clean sheet. So by full time, it wasn't 2 phases that Maddison had dominated, but 3. He was the standout performer on a perfect night for Spurs, playing in a way that typifies the joyful philosophy behind Ange Ball. So there you have it, that is exactly how Spurs smashed City and where it all went wrong for the champions. That is where I'm going to end today's podcast, but there are plenty of others you can go and listen to. For more content, check out my website, that's inmrfootball.co.uk. On there you can find match reports, live blogs, club updates and so much more. And if that's not enough, IronMR is also on Instagram and X, so you can follow me on both of those platforms for more daily football content. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.